Welcome everyone to this panel discussion on the international market scenario and way forward post-lockdown organized by GJEPC. So the current scenario we are all facing is quite unprecedented, and it's a worldwide challenge. Probably never before have almost all countries and all segments of gem and jewelry industry been simultaneously been affected in such a severe manner where everything is at a virtual standstill in most places. But as with all challenges, this too shall pass. The important thing is that we assess the situation continuously, develop thoughts and strategies on how to respond to the scenario as it unfolds, and the fundamental changes that may happen in the things that we take for granted. Today we have with us a panel of international experts who have their pulse on various international markets and are here to share their visibility and insights into their respective regions. So I'll just take a few moments to introduce our panelists. David Brough from the UK. He's a co-founder and editor of the Jewelry Outlook magazine. Julius Zheng is the China coordinator of GJEPC. He's also a jewelry industry analyst, actively engaged in industry matters, and formerly the general manager of Rappaport China. He has over 20 years experience in the international diamond and jewelry industry. Holly Granofsky has over 25 years of experience in global product development, merchandising, sales development for designer, retailers, and manufacturers. Nancy Robey is also from the US, specializes in trade show, sponsored conferences, and matching events, launches specific deep trade relationships with high-end designers, independent specialty retailers, and regional chains. She has also been involved with the JCK Couture Show, CEO, Major Summit, ECRM Gold, and many other such events. Alex Popov from Russia is the president of the Moscow Diamond Bourse. He was instrumental in establishing the first Russian private diamond and jewelry exchange and his acceptance as a WFDB member. Following that, he served as a board member, CEO, vice president, and elected as president of the Moscow Diamond Bourse in 2008. Irina Litvinova is the director of Moscow Diamond Bourse and project director of the Indo-Russian Jewelry Federation. Ms. Litvinova represents Russian jewelry market community and is active in facilitating bilateral diamond and jewelry trade relations between Russia and other countries. Jeremy Knight from Australia. Jeremy has been in the industry since the 1990s and has worked as a director of sales and marketing for a large UK-based manufacturer for 7 years, and then went on to be a distributor for wedding rings and branded jewelry, as well as a loose diamond supplier. He moved to Australia in 2008 to enter retail with one of the largest retail groups there. He's the founder of Jewelers Trade magazine. Also, we're expecting shortly Sophiya Silvert to join us from Belgium. She's a consultant and worked with the Antwerp Diamond Trade Fair, and her efforts were concentrated on buyers from Europe. So primarily, we would like to structure this session into 3 loose segments. First would be where we are today and the ground reality across the world. Second is the introspect on now, what, and why. And third would be, the way forward. So, I'd like to start with, throwing it open to the panelists to understand what the government is doing in each of your markets to support businesses and people, from with social benefits, economic packages, etc., and how this will impact, how this will minimize the impact on individuals and businesses. So, any of the panelists can start and roll through all of you.
Shall I start for the UK?
Yes, sure. Yes, David, go ahead.
So in the UK, we have full lockdown right now. The situation is extremely serious for the economy. In fact, official forecasts are saying that the UK economy could contract by as much as 35% in the second quarter. So the government has taken very drastic steps. Monetary authorities have also issued some emergency measures. So the Bank of England, for example, cut the base rate to 0.1%, which is the lowest level in its entire history. The government has announced a number of sweeping measures to support businesses, and that obviously includes the jewellery sector. Jewellery shops are shuttered, so the government has guaranteed that it will pay up to 80% of employed people's salaries, and businesses applied yesterday for that. Also, some jewellery businesses are able to apply for grants to support themselves, and also interest-free government loans are available to jewellery businesses. However, jewellery retailers and wholesalers in the UK are complaining about a severe cash flow crisis. Retailers, for example, are cancelling orders from wholesalers. So a lot of people are really struggling financially at the present time.
Okay. Nancy, you want to go next? Nancy, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay. In the US, we have 50 different states, each one in a different phase of lockdown and then recovery. For instance, in New York, we hit a plateau and we're now supposedly on the downward slope. But and Texas is reopening. Every state's different, and everything depends on testing, the antibody testing, the diagnostic testing, and the eventual vaccine. So getting back to work is completely dependent on the testing to do that. So it's a rolling phase. People are afraid of the second wave coming, so that's a cause for concern. People want to get back to work, and this is becoming somewhat political in our country as well. So that's also causing some problems and some issues. Unemployment is at an all-time high. We have 20 million people now unemployed. That does include middle management and, in certain cases, senior management. Holly and I keep in touch with jewelers, particularly at the large chain, medium-sized chain size, and many of them have furloughed their staff, shut their stores, obviously, and it's complicated getting back to work, even with economic stimulus packages that the government has offered. We talked to Ben Bridge yesterday, and they are in different states, and each state has different requirements. That's not the only complication. They have to provide protective gear to their salespeople. They have to go back and start back up payroll, get furloughed employees back. Some companies who have laid off entirely their sales forces at the manufacturing and designer level, they may not rehire, and companies may go out of business. So it's a real concern. And it's an election year in the US. So in any election year, people's spending and purchasing behavior is somewhat frozen. So these are all the issues that are confronting us as we try to get back to work.
Sohil?
Yes, Jamie, you want to go next?
Yeah. So in Australia at the moment, we're only on a partial lockdown, so it's no unnecessary travel. A lot of business owners are trading, but only essential businesses. There's no movement in between states. All state borders are locked down, unless it's a necessary business moving, for instance, groceries, that sort of travel. We are actually looking at relaxing restrictions on the 11th of May. Australia's been very, very lucky, and we're seeing very few new cases at the moment. So we are very much on the downslide, hopefully. But obviously this means that we can't relax things too much, because people are concerned about a second wave coming through if we're not careful. Schools are looking at going back 1 day a week from the 11th of May. then progressing to 2 days a week and 3 days a week. The sort of stimulus that the government's put in is people were paid an amount of $750 each, which was around $2.2 billion back in April, beginning of April. And they've already seen 43% of that come back in through to the industry through spending, which has kept the economy going. And but it also means that 57% has been saved by people, which could have a good outcome for us coming out when people have money to spend. And then there's the second wave of that stimulus going in July of another $750 per person in July. They've also introduced what they call a job keepers program to try and keep people in employment rather than a job seeker, which is what we call it. It's a job keeper. So they're paying businesses to keep people employed. And that is $1,500 a fortnight. So long as within your business you can show that you are down on a month-by-month basis by at least 30% on your sales or your income. So to date, the government's put in $230 billion worth of stimulus package in various ways, and hopefully we can look at coming out to this virus situation a lot better than some countries have had it, unfortunately.
And Alex, Irina,
okay, here in Russia we have complete lockdown. Offline businesses are closed except for food, essential goods, and pharmacies. Online shops are working though, so delivery service works fine. Actually, you can buy anything online, including jewelry, if you want to. Shopping centers are closed, everything. They just announced that they extended the lockdown till the middle of May. The peak is not here yet. They expect it in a week or two, so we don't know when will be over actually. As for the measures that the government is trying to undertake, well, first they came up with a list of industries that suffered most from that pandemic. Jewelry included, jewelry retail is included, not manufacturing though. The estimation is that the jewelry industry suffered or is reduced by 97%, which is actually stopped because they couldn't sell anything. Even those who wanted to sell anything online, they have their stock locked in their shut down shopping centers, which they cannot access. Anyway, the government also tries to encourage businesses to keep their personnel, and they saying that they will pay the minimum wages to those companies to cover the salaries. They will cover the salaries of personnel of those businesses who did not fire anyone as of now. So the banks are offering interest-free loans, but what people say, all these measures are like, a tiny drop in the sea. So basically it's for business, it's the businesses problem how to survive. That's what we're facing right now. That's what people say, at least in our industry.
I'm not in a position to add too much to what Irina said, because I've kind of run away from Russia exactly 33 days ago, just before everything started. I've been locked up in Israel, but on the other hand, I speak with people every day, and I see this is an international perspective. I've been on the phone with Japan this morning, and with France, and with Belgium, and our industry is going to suffer very seriously. like big time suffer, and probably it will continue for several months. And all the hopes are for the Christmas season. Everybody is quietly planning for reopening on October. Hopefully this will happen. As I'm in Israel, I went today to the diamond bourse, and it was quite a lot of activity. Not the bourse floor itself, but offices and people were there. Everybody was wearing masks and measuring temperature and using the alcohol gel and trying to do something. But the overall situation is that most probably will come out of this crisis with the kind of elimination of middlemen, because there is just no margin for this, and this will be like a serious crisis, and but there is nothing else we can do. The manufacturers will go directly to the consumer or to the retailer, and the middlemen will be eliminated eventually, which will hit very hard the bourses and all kind of dealership. And it's not only involved diamonds; it also includes jewelry, and it also include watches and all the luxury items. People cut the middleman because there's just no margin. So with this pessimistic thought, I am kind of giving you what I've seen and heard for the last 2 weeks.
Okay. And Julius, obviously, China and Hong Kong is a couple of months ahead of the rest of the world. So what is the scenario there? And with the opening up, what is the first, couple of weeks looking like post the lockdown?
We have a very strict nationwide lockdown in China since late January, and the restrictions has been gradually reduced since March. Most of the nationwide construction projects and the manufacturing activities has been restored. There's now no travel restriction domestically, but the border is still closed for foreigners. In general, people are still very cautious and are still wearing masks. Most of the schools and the universities will be partially open in May. Malls and restaurants are reopened in March. Jewelry stores are reopened last month also, but the sales is not so satisfactory because the foot traffic is still very low. Most of the contacts are being inquired with. They said it's under 50% of the sales in the same time of last year. So the sentiment for consumption is still low because there's a lot of uncertainty. And also there's a lot of restrictions on crowd gathering activities like big parties and big shows. So the jewelry show in May in Shanghai, which is the biggest show in Shanghai, has been postponed in May. And the restaurants are open, but they are not allowed to take the order of a wedding banquet, which is a big problem for the purchase of wedding jewelry. Because if you cannot hold the wedding party, they will likely be postponing the wedding. So also because most of the factories, shops, and companies were closed in the very strict lockdown in the first 2 months. The GDP growth rate in the first quarter is minus 6.8%, which is the first ever negative growth recorded since 1992. So the government's first priority to getting the people back to work, because the lockdown started near the Chinese New Year, and China has so many migrant workers stuck in their hometown. So many cities have provided logistics and long-distance transportation, including chartered bus, chartered train, or even chartered airplane to get the workers back to work. Meanwhile, the government tried to keep the factories and companies from closing down, which has certain tax reduction policy and business loans in place. However, I don't see many of my jeweler friends speaking to me that they get such kind of benefit. So I think the nation is trying to keep the economy up in general sense. So, and in keeping up the economy, we will sustain the demand from the consumers. Right now, the public health situation has been stabilized with a single double digit of new cases every day. And in the next few months, the biggest task is still the balance between economy and public health. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. During the lockdown, almost everyone, either by choice or due to some necessity, has become more comfortable with technology and the online space. Do you see this influencing buying patterns of consumers? And how should the industry respond to this potential trend? If Holly and Julius, if both of you all could give some inputs on this, on how this forced intimacy with online world, how that will affect people's buying patterns going forward. Holly, you need to unmute yourself, please.
Better. What we're seeing here in the US, Nancy and I are speaking with a variety of US retailers, and what they've identified is if they had an online business during this pandemic, they're in a much better place. We spoke to one retailer yesterday, Benbridge, who was not prepared to not be able to go to their DC for their product, which is their office, and they are not able to sell product online. So they've been shut down from having any sales during the pandemic. But we've spoken to other retailers who are having great online businesses, obviously because they can't go to the store. So they've focused a lot on making sure all new products are up and running. They are also having more video shown on their websites to share their stories about their designers. And this has been something that's been a great added value to their sales. So obviously no stores have been able to sell any product, but they are able to communicate through social media, through Instagram has been great, and doing YouTube videos, being able to tell their story, show the product. That is key to the business today.
Julius, how are you seeing things in China with the reaction on the online world?
From my observation, actually the online business is still the sector which has not contracted during the lockdown, especially the online grocery. But on the other hand, jewelry is a little bit different from grocery because usually for the jewelry pieces over $200 US, people still have to see the jewelry before they pay. But Chinese people are very familiar with internet, and also in recent years, almost everybody has a smartphone. So we don't use computers so much anymore. Instead, we are addicted to the smartphone. So lots of local social media like WeChat, TikTok, and a lot of online platform like Tmall, like JD, offers people a very good platform to sell jewelry online. I have the great opportunity to work with the Chow Tai Fook on some one article about the business in China. I take them for example. They have 3,500 stores in mainland China, but they also, as the oldest as a very old jeweler with 90 years of history and the biggest jeweler in the world. They also work on 90 online platform. So that's something very surprising to me. However, from statistics, the average sales online is around 200 US. And the average in-store sales ticket price is around 850 US dollars. So I think I see a great trend of the fusion of the online and the offline business. They use the platform to show, they use the online platform to show the consumers the products and enable them to pick up from the stores. Tmall or JD or somewhere else. They can deliver the store for the consumers to pick up also. Okay. So that's the B2B side. I'm sorry, on B2C side. On the B2B side, I think our Indian friends are very familiar with selling online to China customers already. Because virtually, I think every jewelry manufacturer in Surat has some kind of online platform, and Chinese are very used to them. Yeah, I think they cannot do any work without them. Especially now, our Indian friends has used a lot of new technology like 3D video and very good description of the products. So I think the fusion of online and offline will be the trend of future business. Yeah.
So there has been a lot of talk about, revenge shopping, emotional purchases for engagements, weddings, or, just personal treats post-lockdown. Are these relevant factors? And if so, how do you see these playing out? Sophie and Nancy, if you all could give some views on this.
So
hello. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Sophie.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Bonjour, bonsoir. Bonjour, Alex. So.
Sophie, would like to go ahead?
Who, me? All right. Yeah. Emotional purchases. Well, for sure, I think that women, when the lockdown is, restrictions are lifted, everyone will want to go to the stores. So there'll be a bit of a rush. But this being said, it's a question of liquidity. And at the moment in Europe, everyone is struggling. If you look at Pandora, like fancy jewelry, let alone in Italy, they've closed down around 30 shops. So yeah, everyone will want to buy something, that's for sure. But at the moment, the governments in the various countries in Europe, they are putting together stimulus packages to keep companies alive. For instance, in Belgium, only 3% of very small and medium-sized enterprise received the government's premium to survive. So a lot of people have been laid off or partially laid off, and really it's catastrophic. And I would think that there's a bit of a myopic behavior here from governments, and if they don't get their act together and lift the restrictions by the end of May or earlier in June, then companies will really be in trouble. The jewelry sector, the industry, it's a domino effect because of the intertwining, if you like, of companies, from producers to retailers and all the middlemen, as Alex said. There'll be a drastic correction of the market. So I think there'll be quite a few losers and people will be bust or simply will have to close down. But women, yeah, sure. I'll be the first one to go out because we only have supermarkets and pharmacies open. The French have 1 hour to go around and shop. Yeah, you want to go and purchase, but then again, it's a question of liquidity, because a lot of people have lost their jobs, and then people are being given mortgage holiday, rent holiday, postponing of your social charges in your companies, postponed to September or what, but then you'll have to repay at some point. So people are already indebted. And at some point, they will come to a maturity of their loans and how they're going to do it. I just look at the stock market this morning on CNBC just before joining, and I'm like, I'm looking at the price of the oil barrel, and I'm like, well, this is something unbelievable that nobody would have thought of before, being at such a low level. So yeah, emotional purchases, of course, and buying jewelry is always about emotion. So
same in the US.
Yeah, for digital platforms and all of this, yes, of course. At the moment, everyone is using their time to rethink, review their marketing communication strategies, and actually review their products. So you see a lot of new pictures of new designs on Instagram and all of those social networks. To attract people and make them dream a little bit, because at the moment it's rather morose. So you want to dream. So if we receive a lot of nice pictures of at any level, because it's a question of purse. So every purse, it's relative, the purchases according to the purse that you have. But then we will be normally updated at what is fashionable, and people want to be happy. That's what we want, and we know that we are taking a big loss at the moment. So yeah, a little purchase, but then that's why I think governments have to lift all those restrictions. And for example, if you look in Japan, everyone is working and you put your mask on, but otherwise we're just going to go down. Unless you are Monsieur Arnault, you know, you are Monsieur Bernard Arnault, you have big funds. How people are going to survive, I really don't know. I wish I had a crystal ball, but my name is not Madame Soleil. For those who speak French, they understand. I'm not Mrs. Sunshine. So it means that I don't have a crystal ball, and all I can do is listen to all the various governments and all their endless briefings 24 hours a day, which drive people absolutely nuts. So we need to come out of this collective hysteria, let's put it like that. I don't deny the nastiness and the devastation of these epidemics, but we need liquidity, so we need to go back to work to fuel, let alone our health system. Voila.
And so, Nancy, anything you have to say on this concept of?
Yeah. You know, in the US, we have never had a war fought on our soil, not in many, many years. And this is an attack, this is an assault, not since Pearl Harbor. So given that, there's a great deal of emotion going through this situation. And I think that when we start coming out of this, there will be a desire for some celebration jewelry. I don't know what you would call it, what it would be. I mean, right now, Holly and I are seeing that engagement rings are still being sold, and there's some talisman jewelry. But I think the need to celebrate our togetherness. I mean, we're seeing a lot of the retailers promoting their charitable initiatives, sustainability, working in their communities, the love and togetherness. Hamilton's Jewelers in Princeton, they're giving back to their small businesses in the Princeton area, not jewelry. They're doing auctions to raise money and raise $50,000. There's small initiatives and you know, bracelets that are being designed to be given to nurses. So this sort of emotional connection coming out of the the first wave of the pandemic, I think there will potentially be the need for that kind of jewelry. And I think that designers and manufacturers can kind of think about how they might design on that trend and use this time right now to sort of think through how they would do that and form partnerships with the retailers they might currently be working with or the designers who are using their stones. It's an opportunity, albeit, you know, one driven by dire circumstances.
So, you know, in this current period of lockdown, I think, you know, what one people do have is a luxury of time. And, you know, if you were to suggest to Indian manufacturers what they should do during this lockdown to strategize or to improve their ability to service their customers better post-lockdown, what would be your suggestions of some areas of focus? Maybe if Holly can go first and then Jeremy.
Okay.
Based on having the luxury of time right now, what we are seeing in the market as a way to help your business in the future is to work more closely on being able to work online. That might mean instead of having a meeting with a retailer, if you're a wholesaler manufacturer, you can have an opportunity to have a video chat. And during that video chat, you want to be able to have your product online, sharing it with them, and also sharing history about your company, having some sort of website prepared, but not necessarily for a B2C, but for a B2B. And we've spoken to a variety of retailers already about this idea in the US, and they really like it because everybody thinks there will be travel, but there'll probably be less, definitely in the beginning, and what companies are going to be open to having other companies coming to their offices is questionable right now. So instead of waiting for that to happen, we would recommend companies going in, taking really good pictures of their product, having really nice websites designed, having great lookbooks designed, having great videos prepared so that you can either have the meeting B2B or have B2C opportunities with your retailer or without your retailer going direct. Because in order for you to do business today, you have to be perfectly well established online. And this is the time you can take care of that.
Jeremy, some thoughts from you?
Yeah, well, obviously people have got time on their hands, and preparation is the key. Absolutely. Know your market. At the end of the day, there's no point producing great looking designs that you think are great if they're not going to sell. So know the market that you want to penetrate. If you want to penetrate the Americas, you want to penetrate Australia, Europe, whatever, actually do your homework. Look at not just what's in stores, but look what people are wearing. If you have contacts in those countries, I know you can't walk the streets anymore, but you know, you look at magazines, books, papers, you can see what the general public are wearing. And this is where you can curtail your designs to hit a specific market. Saying that, great photography. There's a lot of times as a magazine where Indian manufacturers produce goods for wholesalers, and wholesalers are waiting for sometimes months for their goods to come through. Once their goods come through, then they have to get them photographed with at least 300 dpi, so they can start actually promoting the goods. By manufacturers having good quality photographs with white backgrounds, it enables the wholesalers to get into market a lot quicker and generating sales. So that is a very good key, as well as what Holly said. You know, with the video, you can show your customers online, and online is the key. There are platforms where you can meet different people. There there is a new platform coming out called WJ platform. I think that's just weeks away, where manufacturers can post up their designs for viewing, and it just creates an inquiry from the buyers. So there's no actual sales done on that platform, but it creates inquiries that people are interested in those designs. For retail, there's a nice bit of kit called CAD Folio, and manufacturers should probably look at that and see what sort of technology is out there as well, which they're competing with, because it's just a plug-in to retailers, and it can be a hands-off aspect to their business where they don't even touch the product. So there is a lot out there. There is a lot moving online. Yes, people are going to have to change their way of doing business for the time being. I mean, let's face it, and let's be honest, restrictions on international travel could take as long as 18 months. And that's if there's a cure or a vaccine. Because even though individual countries will be taking their lockdowns, and domestically they will be moving around more freely as the months progress ahead, international travel will still be very questionable until there is a vaccine or a cure. And we have to take into account that we may never find a vaccine or a cure. That is always a plan B as far as Australia is concerned. We have very strict lockdown rules here. At the moment, they're saying no international travel for the foreseeable future. They're talking December, unless otherwise stated. So I think one thing for manufacturers to look at is different countries are in different stages of this virus, and they will be unlocking their doors at different stages as well. So keep your eye on who is opening their doors, when they're opening their doors, and get good partner relationships with wholesalers or retailers if that's what your business is involved in. Loose stones, they may have to look at some sort of partnership where they've got a buy and a return as well, because a lot is done on viewing the stones. So if they have good partnerships with wholesalers that they can do a sale or return with them, they're going to get up their business a lot quicker and turn goods over. So the more on the service that you're going to provide to the buyers to encourage easier dealings with people. But obviously this also brings up the question that you have to be very careful too, because no one wants to lose goods. So the key is good business relationships with your partners, with your wholesalers, and a good honest plan to move forward as quickly as possible.
And Irina, you are, having a good visibility on both sides, because you're normally, in this unique position of having, the role of the bridge between a manufacturer and a retailer. So, with this unique perspective, what would you suggest for Indian manufacturers to do to be better prepared, or what they can take this time to do to improve their offer?
Yes, actually, well, first of all, I completely agree with both Holly and Jeremy. The being online is crucial now. And I'm sorry to say, guys, if you're not already online, if you don't have a digital catalog, you're out. It may be hard to realize, but you're already too late to do that. But what I also wanted to share you, it's a new initiative introduced only last night by one of our quite large manufacturer / wholesaler of jewelry, and they shared it to our online jewelers platform that will communicate. And I wanted to introduce it to you, so it might be a very good idea. yes, it's very crucial to be online. But once you communicate with your customer online, then your customer have to sell your goods to the end consumer. And what if they don't have the online presence? So what that manufacturer offered to their clients yesterday is as simple as that. They're saying, okay, you carry our product, you sell our product, you are a good customer. What we suggest is our experts tune in your online platform, fill it up with pictures of our products, and even do some initial, targeting, retargeting, whatever, fix it, so that you can already sell it to your end consumers for free. I mean, they're tuning in their online platforms of their clients for free. So yes, it's an investment, but if you face it, it's an investment in their publicity, in the publicity of their own product. Because after all, if you manage to sell your product to your client wholesaler and it sits there, there's no use. There's no, I mean, if it doesn't move further. So again, to make it short, what they're offering, the manufacturer here, a local manufacturer is offering, they are investing money in fixing, in tuning in their customers' online platforms so that their products can spread to the end consumer. I think that's something to think about after, of course, you have everything set for yourself, all the online presence at all. And one more point, it may or may not be true for all the markets, but I talked to my colleagues, and what they're saying that after this is all over, probably what people buy will be different a little bit from what they used to buy previously. Obviously, people won't have as much money as they used to have, and they won't be ready to spend as much money as they would want to spend on jewelry. So maybe relook at the designs you're offering. People would want like quality, nice quality stones in a classic design, something that could last. It's not something, avant-garde that would, come out of fashion in a couple of months or in a year. People would want to buy something really nice and something that would last for at least some time, because I cannot afford to buy, state-of-the-art fashion jewelry every other month now. Yeah. So maybe relook at the designs they're doing.
So because gems and jewelry industry competes with various other luxury industries for the share of wallet of the consumer. Now, one of these other luxury industries, which is the travel and leisure industry, is arguably going to be hit even harder than the jewelry industry and is going to suffer for even longer. Is there potential for the jewelry industry to pull some share of this consumer spend? And what can the jewelry industry do to capitalize on this opportunity? If David wants to have a go. David, you need to unmute yourself.
The answer, I would say, would be marketing, marketing, marketing. It's really up to the jewelry industry to market itself more proactively, more efficiently, to fend off competition from other luxury sectors. So I think now we're entering the era of what you might call emotional technology. So far in digital sales in the jewelry space, it's been sort of cold. And certainly looking at the UK experience of retailers, they're typically independent retailers, maybe selling 15% of annual turnover online, something like that. But now they'll have to ramp up right across the board in terms of digital sales of jewelry around the world in B2B and B2C. And it really will boil down to the quality of marketing. The National Association of Jewellers here in the UK recently held a webinar with Stephen Webster, the celebrated UK designer, and he predicts that after the lockdown there will be a leap in sales of jewellery via social media. So there'll be opportunities to Instagram, for example, sell jewellery, and I think influencers, bloggers too, can have an increased role in selling jewellery post-lockdown. The bloggers have been doing a great job through the lockdown, raising awareness of issues and helping jewelers to improve their business models through this period. So I think they've done a fantastic job. And I think one way to recognize what they've done is to talk to the influencers and say, you know, how can we sell jewelry using your good offices after the lockdown? So the digital space is going to be really transformed hugely. Ultimately, it'll be down, as it always has been in retail, to high quality customer service. And you can drive that both digitally and in the physical space.
You know, in the post-lockdown scenario, where trade shows are cancelled, travel is limited or restricted, you know, these have been primarily the ways manufacturers meet their existing or potentially new customers. And this was one of the key ways of generating new business. You know, in this new reality in the post-lockdown world, Nancy, with your extensive experience in you know, the trade show world, how do you think you know, the industry will need to adjust to this?
Well, that's something that Holly and I have been trying to monitor with the conversations we're having on a regular basis. Clearly, people are not going to want to get on a plane and travel overseas in the next 4 to 5 months. They're even questioning whether they're going to go to US trade shows, let alone overseas. However, almost everyone we've spoken to says they still need the new, and people use trade shows not just to buy from their current set of vendors. They're looking for the new, and we think that's an opportunity. One of the conversations we had, this kind of goes along to what Holly was saying before and Jeremy about how to improve your online presence, your website, but it goes beyond that. When a buyer is looking for something new and looking at new suppliers, she doesn't want to have to dig. She doesn't want to have to go on the website, and let's be honest, not everybody's website is all that great. You need to give her a quick sound bite on who you are, the elevator story, a 3-4 minute video where you're telling that buyer, this is what we're about, this is what our unique selling proposition is, this is our product strengths, and here's how we can deliver that. Show some product and make it fast and succinct. That way the buyer can figure out if this is a good relationship or something she's not going to want to pursue. But I think that's going to help a lot. And then if she does decide, or he does decide, that he wants to pursue a relationship, then one-on-one meetings can be set up virtually to show product. It's a little harder with stones, and Holly, you may want to talk to that point, but buyers, you know, they still love to pick up and touch and see and feel, but there are ways to do this. Holly, do you want to weigh in on that?
Sure, Nancy. I think that if you're going to be showing, whether it's finished jewelry or gemstones or diamonds, as long as you have a way to share the story, share what's so good about it, talk about why, you know, my company has a niche in this market, then you can have that product come across to anyone and understand why it's so great.
And Jeremy, with your direct experience in sales and you know, in the loose diamond trade as well, how do you think you know, people should react to this restriction in travel and you know, cancellation of trade shows?
Well, I don't think we'll see an international trade show this side of January, to be honest with you. With everyone being at such different levels of infection, and most people not once they get out of this scenario, they won't want it coming back, and they will be restricting international travel for as long as possible. So this year is going to be very, very difficult, very difficult. And like I said before, as far as loose stones are concerned, you've just got to make sure that your connections with your wholesalers, your clients, your customers are solid. and you have a good reputation and business relationship with them, that you can still send goods overseas. And even if they pay for them up front and they're sent, you will take returns back if they're not up to the standard that they were expecting, or the standard that you were telling them that it was, because it's very hard to get loose goods with good photographs. And I know people will struggle with photographs. I know somebody made a comment about how we're supposed to do this when we're on lockdown. It's going to be hard. You just, if you want to get out there, you've got to try your best, and photographs won't be high definition. There are some great phones out there that are taking great pictures. Just make sure you got a bit of lighting around them and white background so that you can show them off as best as possible, and then change those photos later on down the track when you can get yourself, if you don't have a light box, then do that. But yeah, it's going to be very hard. 2020, I mean, I'm sure people have had the WhatsApp messages, 2020 has been cancelled, you know, and that's very true to a great extent. Let's move on to 2021 and let's get preparing, ready for some international travel there. I think if you get all your ducks in a row and you use this time wisely, then just get hold of your wholesalers that are in countries that are coming out of this lockdown earlier than others, build your relationships. And that's what it's all going to be about. It's going to be connecting. And as they say, data is king. You know, it's not what you know, it's who you know and what sort of relationships you build.
And
it's
Alex
about
and Julius,
if I may interrupt, I think it's about service. Service. If David says marketing, beautiful pictures because they speak better than words, because that's the first point of attraction. You see a beautiful picture and you get an emotional, you're attracted. But the next thing is for your business, our business, is services, custom relations. Send a little package, has to be to specs, and as Jeremy said, a very good relationship, working on the relationship, so that when a little packet is shipped, there's no disappointment on the other side. So it's very important to offer clients very good service. Services foremost. Marketing, yes, marketing strategies, everyone is at it at the moment. They have the time, as you say, the luxury of time. That's the only luxury that we have, time, which we run after most of our lives. So for now, we have it, but it's the time to really focus on services.
Nancy, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to, and I think Holly wants to weigh in on this too. This is a good time to do a SWOT analysis for the suppliers companies. Your strengths, your weaknesses, but specifically geared to the market that you want to be selling in. So looking at the US market, what's your delivery time? Things are going to be a lot faster with regard to needing the delivery if there's going to be more online. Holly, can you talk to that point?
Yeah, I think that we're extending Sophia's conversation about service. So if you're working with the retailers in the US, there's a program called Dropship. So if you are going to be participating in Dropship, which is a program that it looks like the retailer is selling directly to the consumer, but it's actually the product inventory is at the manufacturer. So you generally get an order and you have to deliver somewhere between 3 and 7 days. And if you are a manufacturer or wholesaler, at this point of business, you want to be able to do that. Otherwise, you will not be able to deliver. So it's all about service today.
This is exactly what Cadfolio does, where they collate everything for a country into one shipment through Brinks, gets split at the other end after customs and goes direct to consumer, all done through Brinks. It's a great piece of kit. And I believe their average sale online is $2,500 per sale.
I would like to add a little bit. You were asking about the competition of the travel. The travel actually generates about half of sales in our industry, not in the United States, but mostly internationally. I'm talking about duty-free, I'm talking about in-flight sales, I'm talking about Chinese people coming and buying big brands and everything else. So the restriction of travel actually doesn't open the purses of people to buy something else, because if they don't travel, they don't have incentive to buy. As Irina said, we are the emotional trade, and when people are happy, they buy jewelry. They don't buy jewelry when we are unhappy. So we have to prepare ourselves to the moment of happiness, be it travel, be it the end of the pandemic or anything else. And when we are there and there is this point, then the happiness is coming back by this way or another, the design will be number one, because nobody can guarantee today good service, because our trade is international. We have diamonds are polished in India, and they're set in Thailand, and then they're shipped to America and reshipped to Hong Kong, and all this has gone. It doesn't exist for the time being. So in order to provide with proper supply chain, it will take time. So I wouldn't recommend ruining your reputation by offering something online which you cannot deliver, because this is like you're killing yourself. This is number one. Number two, if people will be happy, they start buying, but they won't be buying everything. It's not like one day they were hibernating and then come back and see anything they see on the website they buy. They will have half of the resources that are on their disposal, maybe even less. So they will look for something which will make them happy again. So it has to be wow effect. If you continue doing the same thing you've been doing for years, just forget about it. It won't be sold. And adding to Jeremy's point, everybody will insist on consignment, and to give consignment at this point of time is extremely dangerous. Even with people you know, even with people you work with, you have to be extraordinarily prudent. On the other hand, you cannot insist of prepayment, because people don't have any money, especially the retailers and the people who suffered so much. So the logical conclusion of this will be the manufacturer going directly to consumer, because then you have your merchandise safe. Then you don't have to rely on unpaid debts and other kind of issues that unfortunately we will see more and more. And these are like just points I wanted to add.
Julius, you have anything else to add on this?
Well, I'll just add to the question in general. I think for the buyers, they go to the shows for several reasons. The first one is they want to select the goods during the show in person. The other ones is they like to get information. So because there are a lot of seminars and the new products in the show. And the third reason, which is also very important, is to make friends and then meet the old friends. Especially for me, when everybody is busy, even we are living in the same city, but we don't get to meet very often. And the trade show is the very unique place for everybody to be there together in a very short time. So these are the reasons people go to shows. So as of now, we are all stuck in the situation, but trying to make do the situation, we have to rely on a better presentation of our goods, which including better videos, better photos. And I can see another trend, which is a B2B2C platform, which some of the manufacturers allows their clients to use their photos and videos on the retailer's online platform. So this is very good, a very good platform for manufacturers to connect to consumers indirectly and allow the retailers to have more access to inventory from over the world. And meanwhile, I think it's also very important for buyers and sellers to agree on the grading system, because if you don't see the goods in person, you have to rely on the suppliers to tell you honestly which the floor is, which is the how good is the stone, because all the suppliers tend to think every stone of theirs are good stones, but obviously the buyers want to they have their own grading system. So that's also very important. I think this epidemic will change people's working pattern fundamentally. People may travel, even after this situation, I think people will travel less and people will make work from home more. And also the changing, the consumers' purchase pattern will change, because I think they will buy less expensive goods. So these are all the trends we should be looking at and to be prepared for ourselves. Thank you.
Nancy, you had something?
Yeah, just a quick comment to follow up on what Julius said about the need, the trade shows furnishing a community to the buyers and the sellers. In the US, what we've started to see is these e-newsletters put out by the trade show organizers. Every day I get an e-newsletter from the Centurion trade show. Every few days I get one from the Couture trade show. JCK sends out. It has interesting articles about their exhibitors. It's a way to keep their exhibitors and their buyers connected, and it's all about the community. And I think this could be an opportunity for those who've come in the past to the GJEPC buyer meets to have an e-newsletter that showcases on a kind of rolling basis who's doing what in the Indian design and stone community, and kind of keep a dialogue facilitated by you to help your, continue your community, to foster the community feeling. I think it could go a long way to engendering those and facilitating those relationships and keeping them flourishing.
Great, thank you for that. So I'm going to take a couple of questions from the audience. So there was a question that there was a McKinsey survey report recently, which shows that there is a high likelihood of mergers and acquisitions and consolidation across various industries, including the jewelry industry. Do you see, either on the retail or the manufacturing side, this happening in any of your geographies? I leave this open to anybody who has feedback on this.
I can quickly say,
yeah, David.
Absolutely, that will happen. So the big players will start swallowing up the little players. There's going to be consolidation. I can give you an example of a huge luxury house on Bond Street that has started buying up or taking up the space of a few independent stores there, and will turn it into a hotel and will sell its own luxury products, including jewelry, within that hotel. It's going to be survival of the fittest, and a lot of smaller businesses will die and finish and crumple, and the most efficient big luxury houses will flourish. I mean, they'll carry on a trend that was starting before the lockdown. They'll buy up the smaller players.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex. Jeremy, I'll get you next.
I just wanted to add to what just David said. I think it will be now, it's actually started already, the hunting for interesting undervalued companies, and every single company is undervalued today. So the hunting is on, and the big players who have cash, and mostly international conglomerates, they're looking for cherry picking very nice products, very nice, promising companies, small ones, but they will let you die or almost die before they take you over, because then it will be cheaper, of course. And this is the situation. We need, every one of us need to stay afloat by cutting costs, but keeping themselves visible. Keeping themselves visible and trying to bring all these big sharks with the capital to help us over, because government will not help our industry. Our industry is regarded, except India and perhaps some other countries, is regarded as the unnecessary in a way. So it will be a big challenge. We cannot really compete with the healthcare and with the other industries which suffered so much, and all the government money will go there. So if we want to compete for the private money, and please don't be don't anticipate a lot of money from your customers, because customers will not pay anything this year. There will be checks bounced, and there will be people will delay payments, especially big ones, especially because they have more power. The bigger the customer, more you're in trouble. So just keep quiet. Just try to make sure these big guys see you, and see you in a good sense. Try to put some nice bells and whistles around you, and make sure you're alive. Then at some point, either the consumer will see you, or the big guys will see you and help you out with the money, and perhaps you'll keep your job.
Jeremy, you had something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, you know, 2020 will definitely sort the wheat out from the chaff. You know, you've got to take into account that there's probably a number of businesses that have been having it tough for a while. And with gold prices being so high as they are at the moment, it's a good time to cash in and cash out. So I think there will be quite a bit of us losing a number of companies, especially those that are coming up to retirement as well, and the children don't want to take over their business. So yeah, there's opportunities there for larger companies to expand too.
In the current scenario with you know, the price of silver being so low, price of platinum being also far lower than gold, almost half the price of gold, and you know, potentially lab-grown diamonds. I mean, how do you see all these different factors affecting the trend in the industry going forward? Yes, David.
Well, I see a fantastic opportunity for silver jewellery exports from India in this period, because the silver price has hugely lagged the upswing in the gold price, and the gold-silver ratio is over 100 to 1. It's a very high ratio, so silver is looking cheap relative to expensive gold. Equally, in the, say, the engagement market, there is a fantastic opportunity now for platinum, because platinum is less than half the price of gold. And it's, some would say, can be a superior jewellery metal in qualitative terms. In terms of lab-grown diamonds, I think we could be entering potentially a new era for lab-grown diamonds post-lockdown, because they are so cheap now relative to natural diamonds. Natural diamond prices have fallen, and lab-grown diamond prices will fall possibly further going forward into the future. It will depend ultimately, of course, again on marketing, how well the lab-grown diamond jewellery manufacturers market themselves, which is a bit of a question mark at this time. But in terms of big picture things, definitely this is a great opportunity for silver right now.
Sophiya, you have some thoughts on this?
Well, I can't agree more with Alex, actually. And so, as they say on CNBC, it's a buying opportunity. So, of course, the big ones will take over the small ones. And I just completely agree. There will be a market correction, as we say in French. So those in the middle will have a hard time. And then, as David said as well, yes, I believe that there is a market for platinum jewelry because the gold on the stocks today are up, platinum is down, and the silver. So for your industry, yeah, there is a market for fun silver jewelry to be exported to Europe. That's probably one of the fun, happy buying, not too expensive that people will be able to afford. So we've seen a few items, and as I mentioned before, I can't think of the name now of but with Alex we went. Do you remember, Alex, when we went to visit the Silver Museum? Do you remember, in Jaipur? We bought some earrings, some rings, really fun, with natural stones, possibly not the top of the end, of course not, but that's not the purpose. The purpose was to buy fun things different from what we have, and still have and be happy. So there's a market for that, definitely. I agree with David on that.
There'd be a big market for that,
yeah.
And the combination of silver and perhaps even diamonds will have a very good effect. And as a matter of fact, David, I conquered the lab-grown prices went down with the lockdown in China and in India. It's actually almost impossible to buy lab-grown Malay today. I mean, of the decent price. And the prices of the lab-grown Malay are not very far away from natural Malay, which sounds strange, but this is the way it is, because basically the price of these stones is the price of the labor, and the labor is the same for both. So they cost less than $1 per stone, and the labor could be $2 per stone. So the price of the market is between $2.50 and $4 per stone, which is a huge price. And actually this will lead to the situation where the Malay will eventually, except for the big brands, will eventually be mixed between lab-grown and natural. Nobody will care about it. And this will just be the way it is. And even Mr. Rappaport, who so much people talk about him these days, he actually predicted it last year when we had this conversation in Vegas.
Just to highlight on the silver, you know, this is a huge opportunity for India. Absolutely huge, because I think silver is going to play a big role in the recovery for the jewelry industry as well. As gold is so high, there's going to be a big push towards silver. Now, the biggest probably competing country apart from China to India is Thailand. You know, Thailand is roughly about 5% cheaper than India in as far as product is concerned. So I think a lot of the silver suppliers within India really need to focus their business on where they want to be, on their designs. Like before, I have attended a couple of BSMs, and there are a few good manufacturers. There are many good manufacturers that have got it right, not only in their product design, but in the way that they display product at shows as well. And there are some manufacturers in India that are very old hat when it comes to design. They're not really looking at the market that they're trying to penetrate. And when they display their products, people coming from overseas want to be able to look at a well-displayed product. It doesn't matter if it's silver, it doesn't matter if it's costume jewelry. To them, it's their income, it's their business, you know. But to have buckets of silver in plastic bags for people to rummage through, it's just not the way the business is conducted these days. You know, it seems like the value of the product is not appreciated as much as gold, where it is a huge part of the market now, and should be considered as precious as any other piece of jewelry, because that is how people are making their living. you know. So there's a few tips there for Indian manufacturers to organize themselves a lot better when things do get back to some sort of normality, and showcase the product with pride. You know, this is what we do, and we're proud of what we do, and we want to show it in the best possible way. This way, it's going to produce more sales when it comes to people viewing the product. It's all about how you're showcasing that product.
I would like to add to what Jeremy just said, just a little caution. Don't try to emulate gold product with silver, because this is the recipe for disaster. Silver is standalone material which should be used in a way that gold cannot be used. It's not just for the price, it's also for the impression, for the design. And India is obviously full of designers who know how to deal with silver and how to combine it with incredible stones. So maybe this is like one of the very, very promising avenues, but don't try to take the normal engagement ring and make it in silver to make it cheap. And this is the recipe for disaster.
Exactly.
I could just add a quick point.
What we're looking at, it's having pride in whatever product it is. But just to follow on, sorry, David, platinum. As far as platinum is concerned, last night in the discussion we had, the World Gold Council, David from the World Gold Council was talking about gold almost as a stock and share replacement, which was quite worrying to a degree, that this could make gold upswing more and more and more if this is the way the Gold Council want to go, which would possibly price gold out of the jewelry industry. I'm sure it won't go that way, but that was an impression that sort of came across. But this is a huge opportunity for platinum, and this is where PGI needs to step in and start doing some promotions and marketing globally, as the platinum being the desired metal for jewelry, especially with the prices they are at the moment. They're in a great strategic place to bridge that gap between silver and gold.
So I'd just like to get Julius's opinion on this as far as China is concerned, on the price point of gold, platinum, and silver, and lab diamonds. Like, what do you see in the Chinese market? And do you see any fundamental shift happening in these areas?
First of all, lab-grown diamond is a huge problem in China right now, because it tends to mix up with natural ones, especially in Malays and in the yellow diamond sectors. So there are a lot of testing and screening device on the market in order to screen the CVD diamond. For the silver part, I think the traditional silver has a good market in China, but it's different from the sector of gold and the platinum diamond. If people want to get wedding jewelry, they buy platinum or gold, not silver. But silver is very good for online business because it's the price is very good. And I think that's the only kind of jewelry people don't have to think twice before they buy, and it can be sold easily online. And I haven't seen much of the silver jewelry with diamond yet, but maybe there's a good opportunity in this situation because the people's budget are low, and then there's a very good, there might be a very good opportunity for silver with diamond jewelry to be promoted in the China market.
Great. So, yes, David.
Just a quick point on, say, color gemstones. We can't lose sight of where we're headed in terms of the global economy. IMF is talking about the global economy contracting by 3% this year. Some would say that's actually the real contraction will be greater than that. So the demand picture is going to be subdued across the gemstone arena. So the sense might be that colored gemstone prices and indeed diamond prices will fall. This can be a great opportunity for Indian manufacturers, jewelry manufacturers, to to buy gemstones cheaply, which will be good for their costs of production. And then the other thing about silver, if gold is going to be so high, priced so high, this could be an enhanced opportunity for well-designed silver jewellery, and potentially bump into the space that used to have been occupied in certain market segments by gold. I just really believe strongly that for India, silver really has a fantastic opportunity right now.
Great. So I think we have time for maybe one last question. So, going forward, do you feel it's going to be business as usual in, 6 months' time? Or are we looking at a fundamental shift in the way we work going forward? What is the new normal according to you all? I leave it open to anybody who wants to answer. Yes, Alex.
If I may start, I think we need to forget about the normal, and there will be no new normal. There will be, everything is going to be put upside down, in a good sense. It's a major change. I just received an article from New York Post saying that online sales of luxury were up 13%. On the other hand, in jewelry, they were down 20%. So it's kind of, people buy luxury, but by luxury today, everything is perceived by luxury. Sneakers are luxury, and wine is luxury, and so this is the real competition. And in order to be there, the people need the reason to do it. So the new normal will be completely different. People will find the new. Perhaps we need to think about making different kind of jewelry. Perhaps we need to think about using jewelry in a different way. Perhaps people will find some electronic and laser beam jewelry, which will be big fun. It will cost very little, and then everybody will forget about gold, diamonds, and precious stones. So we need to keep our options open all the time, and not be bound, but what we've been taught and what we've been doing for the last 20, 30, 50, whatever years. I specifically say, before 50 years ago, there was design, there was creativity, there was some privilege of buying jewelry. Today, we made it commodity market. So the commodity market is over. So guys, let's forget about it. The commodity is gone. Nobody will buy diamonds for the sake of commodity anymore. People will buy nice things in order to wear. People will buy nice things in order to show off. People will buy nice things in order to show other people how successful or how lucky or how happy they are. And here is the real challenge. And not in the metal, of course, it's quite important, but it's all about classic, and the classic will be gone. Will be gone completely. If not this year, then probably next year, because those people who will still produce the same thing that have been producing for generations, they will just go out of business, because they have no chance to be bought by big companies who see no value in this. And they have no chance of survive because they are overburdened with stocks which nobody needs. And this stock is dead. It has to be melted, and the diamonds have to be taken out and put into something better. So it's a big challenge, and the new normal should start today. We're in a good position to think where we're going. We have about 2 months, 3 months maybe, latest, before we're going to be back overwhelmed by day-to-day routine. So my proposition is to start thinking and start seeing why we are different from others and how we can show and prove that we are. Otherwise, we better find our different vocation. Thank you very much.
I think there will be an enhanced premium to the value of very good trend forecasting. So I think jewelers need to look very carefully at serious trend forecasters and what they're saying about what kind of jewelry will be popular and what will be less popular going forward, because you can't afford to get it wrong in the current scenario. Also, I reiterate that the global economy is in for a really tough time for a long time. You know, this could be the worst recession since the Great Depression, maybe even since before that. In Britain, maybe since before that, centuries actually for us. We are not, in my view, going to be recovering in 6 months. It's going to be longer than that. And it really is, it's just survival of the fittest. You know, you've got to get your designs right. You've got to get in the right market segments. Gold will do well always, but gold perhaps will be perceived more for its investment value. People will always buy gold, but they might think more in terms of the investment component of it than they did before.
Add just a very small little advice. Let's learn from other industries. Let's go and invest in WGSN, in the real trend forecasting platforms that predict what will going to happen in the fashion, in the luxury, in all this kind of industries which we are related to for the next 2 years. In order to make good jewelry, we need to know what color of skirts will be popular in the next 2 years. We need to know it's a big investment, and it's foreign for the jewelers to do it. But I think it's about time to invest perhaps $10,000 in the subscription to this kind of service and learn it very seriously before moving forward. Thank you.
And Nancy.
Yeah. I agree, and not to reinvent the wheel, go look at what De Beers research is. Stephen Lucier was speaking yesterday on the panel that Colin Shaw moderated. They're continually monitoring the consumers to adjust their, you know, what the uptake is going to be from the mines. Paola De Luca, the trend forecaster, the futurist. Women's Wear Daily, get a subscription. That's what Alex was just talking about. NPD, there are trend monitoring, not just for luxury, but for specific product categories. And you really need to watch that. I mean, I don't think we're going to know anything until we get through this election in November. So I don't know what the new normal is going to be for the US, but I don't see anything coming out until then. But while you're waiting, watch and monitor these trend forecasters. And I agree, pay if you have to get these subscriptions to these services, because they're very important.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Yeah, Julius, last point.
Okay, I just want to quote one of my dealer friends' words, and she wrote in Chinese. I'm going to translate into English. I think it's very typical of what these dealers is thinking. She said, I think the business will never go back to several years before. There will be business, but the business will be more and more difficult. In China, I assume that in June, the business will be improving, but to be back to the level of last year, it might be in October or even the year end. Before that, a lot of companies will be closing. That's exactly what she said. So there was a time that China can sell everything. If you put a piece of a stone into a piece of gold, you can sell it. But right now, I think there will be more requirement for presentation, either online or offline, or design, or the approach you take to sell to clients. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to take this time to rethink our model of business, how to improve ourselves. And well, I hope we all make it. And hopefully we are not the ones who are closed. Thank you.
Great. So I think that's, Great discussions. There's still a lot more questions from the participants, but I think we are running a little short of time here. Maybe the questions can be circulated to the panelists and they can respond, and that can be shared with the viewers. So yes, thank you everybody for your time. Nancy and Holly, thank you for getting up so late, so early in the morning. Jeremy for staying up so late in the evening for us, and thank you for sharing your insights, everybody.
Stay safe, guys.
Thank you.
Stay funny and stay happy.
Stay happy, stay well. Ciao.
Bye.
See you next time around.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Stay home.
Huh.